you have to ask for the money. Okay, there's an old expression in sales. The worst they can say is no.
How did you raise the initial $700,000 for chasing $3,000?
Well, this is where the cycle of living outside of Hollywood actually helped me. The people that I was dealing with trying to get the movie made lived here in Hollywood and were struggling writers and producers. And in their sphere of influence, they didn't meet people with money, if I can say it that way. Whereas living in Cincinnati, I knew people who had money, and I knew of people who had money. And I would go to my health club, I'd go to work out, and I knew someone was a multimillionaire, and I would literally walk up to them and introduce myself. And I would say, I know I'm being really forward, but I have a movie. Believe it or not, I'm a screenwriter, and I'd like to get it made. Would you have any interest in investing in a movie? There are people, and nobody was offended. They would just say, no, I'm not. Or some people were interested, and I would start a conversation. But what I did is I ended up going to people who I had friends, I had friendships with, and the money came from a friend. His name was Mark Motley, and he owned had a wealth management company, and so he had at his fingertips all of the investors and people who he knew might be interested in investing in a film, and how much they would want to put in and how much they could put in. And so that's the way it worked. Once he read the script and liked it, and once his partners okayed it, and then we met with Ryan Johnson, so it was Mark and Ryan and myself, and that's how the money got to. That's how we got the money to get the movie made. And so, for any film independent filmmaker, that is the biggest hurdle, is finding the money. You have the passion, you have the story, you have the vision, and you have to get the money, and then you have to budget that money correctly. And it's not easy. That you have to learn to do that. But I would say, and people do it all sorts of ways now, right? They have GoFundMe and things like that. But and even big time, I think Spike Lee used GoFundMe for one of his projects. So there's a number of different ways that you can do it. But the best way you can do it is to find people who are investors who, I use the word appetite, have a willingness, let's call it a willingness to make a somewhat risky investment, because investing in movies is somewhat risky. But you certainly are not going to find those people, in a small sphere, in Hollywood, where everyone's a struggling writer and a struggling producer, struggling actor. You may have to step outside of that, okay, and look at a wider scope.
And so a majority of the investors, or all the investors, actually were not in California?
Oh, they were all from Cincinnati.
Oh, wow, okay.
And a few others from throughout Ohio or Pittsburgh. One might have been in Utah or Idaho, but yeah, they were. The money came from outside of Hollywood, and again, it's not unique. The Coen brothers made Fargo. It was a group of dentists who invested in Fargo. I don't know if you knew that, and they became multimillionaires on it. But it was literally a group of dentists who decided that they were going to invest in this film from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, where the Coen brothers were from. And so it's not unique, but even they at that point they already had a number of movies and films. They had to go look for their money, and it's not easy. It's not. But you'd be surprised who might invest in your movie if you ask.
What lesson in raising money for movies can you pass on to our viewers?
You have to, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to ask for the money. Okay, there's an old expression in sales. The worst they can say is no. Okay, so if you're selling a product, if you're a salesman in salesman jargon, the worst a person across the desk can say is no, they're not interested. But you have to ask for money, and you have to try to find investors and understand that if you have friends and family and others who are investing, it's a tough world in them recouping their investment 100%, because again, it's a tough world to make an independent movie. But you ask for the money. You look for someone who has money, and I would certainly try that instead of trying to put together, a few $100s here or a few $100s there. Is to try to find someone who's going to invest in it.
But not everybody has access to people that have money, or run in those circles or work in those circles. So I guess crowdfunding is definitely a good option for those.
Sure, there's all sorts of those platforms today that weren't available when I made Chasing 3000. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and you should look at all of those options.
Bill, what was it like getting Ray Liotta attached? How many days before production?
4 days.
4 days. So you didn't know who was going to be one of the big names in the film.
Correct.
Up to 4 days. So then once that happens, are you going back to investors? Right.
We went back to our main investor, who then put together a package. There's sort of an A and a B investors who come in on the A platform, and then some who come on the B platform who might be recouping their money second. But with Ray Liotta, we had a much stronger. And we also were able, with that, to get a commitment from a distributor.
Once Ray Liotta jumped on? Okay.
Very early on. And so with that, then the investors felt more comfortable with spending more money, and knowing that if they get a theatrical release, that there's a greater potential to be profitable. And so, with a big name actor, you have that cachet, I guess, to go back to your investors, or at least we did. We had that door was opened to us with conversations. Now that we have Ray Liotta, we have a theatrical release. We have a commitment in writing from a distributor. I think we're going to need more money. We're going to need more money to finish this movie, and so we were able to raise that money.
And so you already had cast and crew lined up to go to Pennsylvania?
Yeah, we were already there.
You're already there, okay.
I mean, when we shot the movie with Ray Liotta, with Ray Liotta's contract, with him shooting, we shot a large part of that $700,000 in that 4-day shoot. So at that point, we had 4 days in the can with Ray Liotta, but we had to come back here to LA, right, to shoot the rest of the movie. And we were able to do that, but that was not easy. That was once we once we got that commitment, then we got, after that, then we did get a commitment from a distributor. And then we were able to start to put that, the rest of the money together.
And this was for just U.S. territory, or
Correct.
Oh, no foreign sales.
Yeah, not at that point.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And you said there were A investors and B investors. So is that the first money in, first money out type
Yes,
thing?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
And then who?
Although there were, we had quite a few. We had a lot of investors. I wouldn't do it that way this time. We had almost too many investors. As far as it's better to try to get money from one or two sources. I learned from just trial and error. It would be it's not it's just you're because you're dealing with then not only with the money, but you're dealing with all the different investors, and so it's not, that's easier said than done. You may have to cobble your budget together, but
Also, the more people involved in something, the more chance for conflict.
yes,
Unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether it's money or free, but yeah.
correct. It's just that's just life.
Yeah, that's just life. Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
But it's I think the key is to realize that there are people out there who invest in film. You just have to find them.
Sure. And they wanted to be part of the process.
Right.
They wanted to come to set.
Right.
And you had a premiere?
Yes.
They wanted to go to the premiere and
Yeah, we had a couple premieres. We had one in we had one in LA, and we had one in Cincinnati, and we had one in Pittsburgh.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.